Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day, and we are back again with another week of the top 100 soccer cards that were auctioned off on the PWCC platform. We'll be giving a peek over there. Of course, if you do enjoy the videos, as always, please make sure to leave a like. Helps me, helps the channel, would appreciate it greatly. No pressure, you decide to do whatever you want. I won't judge. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and get on into it. So we'll start from the bottom and work our way up. This week starting at $100. We'll go a bit quicker through the 100 to 200-ish range. There are some notable cards I'd like to talk about, but we start off with this Figo 2002 Mega Crack. So this is a card that, honestly, I hadn't expected to go for that much. I actually thought I might buy this because I have the, well, I actually don't have the Ronaldo, but one day I will. And I was, presumably going to pair it up with this. The last comp, and this was what kind of surprised me, this goes for 103. Last one did 43. The one before that, 25, and then 25. So in my head, I was like, well, if I can get it closer to 30, like, that doesn't seem too bad. Unsure why that went 2.5 times as much. I mean, I do think that I think 25 for this card was a bit cheap. But pretty surprised to see it do that. Nonetheless, 103 is what the price is. We'll see if that gets reran, I guess. But it seemed like the person that had listed this listed others because they all sort of had near the same cert. So, it'd be weird to me that they would sell a few and then shill the fourth one. But yeah, I don't know. Keeping it moving, we have a 35 issue of the 28 Uruguayan team and an SGC 8, which seemed really high, but cool team photo there. Keeping it moving, 1968 Palarex Eusebio for what is 105. Doesn't seem all too crazy. One of the more notable players in the set, of course, having its own meaning with the Cruyff. Above that, 1922 Alcantara. This was a PSA 3. Looking through Toto sales for this style of card, basically. PSA 3, really hard to get, at least from what I can find. Most of them are absolutely torn, so goes for a decent price there, 105. Nice little bit of a premium on the grade, which I think is deserved. There was a Zamora also that went for a little bit lower that I was, throwing my hat in the ring for. We then have an Erling Haaland out of 199 camo that goes for 100. We have a Messi PSA 9 2008, which goes for 100. Row above that, we have a few stickers, none that I have anything particularly to say on them. We've seen them all run before, and seems like they're relatively within the same price range. I'd be interested if this is the same one we saw recently run. I feel like we've seen like almost 3 of these go in the last month or two, which is a bit much, but it is what it is. Whenever there's a load of them, they will come. Glossing right over that, we'll go to the 2020 here. We have a RPA of someone I haven't heard of. Obviously, that's my problem that I'm not as familiar with the game. You can blame me. After that, we have a Xabi Alonso 2001 that goes for 112 in a PSA 9. To me, feels, a bit high, I would say. Iniesta and Xavi's with a V, that goes for, like 200, 250 maybe. I know Xabi is still a good player, still, near that realm, so I don't discredit it entirely, but I just wonder if it has, any sort of card relevancy long term. Obviously, there's going to be fans and collectors, so I'm not disparaging you if you bought it or anything. I'm just saying, for me, it's not something I would chase, so that's typically how I come at this type of stuff. We have a Zidane PSA 2, that's sort of a magazine cutout from what I understand, and that goes for 112. Erling Haaland Foosball PSA 8 goes for 117. We have a WM Clark & Son. We saw a lot of those go last week. We'll see, I think, one more at least this week. Nothing really stuck out to me in this row, just some odd ends. We have a Merlin's David Beckham. We have a Zito from the Alifa set and a manga of Bukayo Saka. We have a couple Messis in the 150 range, along with a Mia Hamm. I always sort of love that 2011 design of Messi. You sort of get the now and then picture, and I think that's cool. The Ronaldo one's a bit weirder because I think there's only like a year or two between the pictures. This one you can see more of a difference, and obviously with Messi being at Barca for most of his career, that stands to mean a little bit more. This Leaf Auto is, the type of item that I personally would recommend people avoid, just in terms of, I think that they could make these forever and you could buy one at any point in time. I say that, I just don't think that the cards themselves are that unique at all, really. But I do understand at the same time, there has to be a base price paid per auto to these athletes, and it's usually not cheap. I mean, it's a bit to the other extreme, but I know in like comics and, like comic artists, stuff like that, actors, all that, in America, sure, but in America, it's extremely expensive to get some of these people to sign. So, you could look at it that way. Maybe 168's kind of cheap, you would think, to get a Karim Benzema auto. I don't know. Just in terms of cards, I'm not very impressed by it. But in terms of auto, anything can play out over time. We have a 2011 Alex Morgan right there. We have a 1942 Pedinera that goes for 168 in SGC 1. Fun to see that, not something you see all too often. In this row, a couple ones I want to check the price on. This Bale, I know I recently made a video about, numbered sets and modern safe sets and all that stuff. This chrome orange definitely sticks into exactly what I'm talking about, and this comp kind of shows sort of what I'm talking about as well. A PSA 9 goes for $174 right now. When we go back to the earliest sales in 2020, a BGS 10 went for $290. So, if you scale that, this is still up quite a bit. And then if you go into 2021, I mean, Bale BGS 10 went for $360, so a little bit up, but again, SGC 1010 Auto goes for $112 in 2021. Like, this is kind of peak boom soccer, and we are still higher than that with these current colors. So, or at least this one in particular, I think it does stretch to others, but that's just something that worries me in general. 1975 Mario Kempes, this 1.5 goes for $174. I actually would really like to get one of these because I think it looks amazing, but this one actually went a little bit over comps. Not that there's anything wrong with that. That's actually probably good if you are someone that has one of these and would want to sell it, or if you're just holding it and want to see things appreciate. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. This 1.5 is actually the same one that sold prior, a month prior, I do believe. I'm pretty sure I looked at this last night, which is why I didn't really touch it. It was also near the same price, so I didn't really want to be around it. But I don't think it's bad by any means. We saw a 3.5 go for a decent price in November, and we didn't really see many prior to that. There seems to have been, a couple listed lately, but that's about it. Moving on up, you got this fun Barbosa here from the 1949 Americana. You also have this Cruyff that I'm a little unsure. I probably should know a bit more, but anything that says hand cut to me always just, it weirds me out a little bit. Just PSA's grading standards in terms of what they're willing to grade with soccer is so vast compared to, in my opinion, other sports. I think they're just either less knowledgeable or more accepting. I don't know what is the exact reason. Not to say that this is, one of the frauds or that this is some set that people don't collect. It very well could be, and I'm just uninformed. I'm definitely not a huge Cruyff collector, so I'm not the person to ask, but anytime there's hand cut, I just come at it with a little bit of skepticism and would like to learn more if I'm going to purchase it. Not the case today. Above that, 2010 Messi SGC 9. Always loved the look of this one. I think the colors are just amazing and goes for $192 there. We have this Franz Beckenbauer, also great colors, also, kind of the timing of today, given that he is recently passed. Sad, but, also a good time to celebrate the career and life of a great man, a great player. So, good stuff there, and just an image that will always stick out to me in the soccer collecting history. Really just stands above many others. I think it's just absolutely beautiful, and I'm glad that he could get something that good to recognize his greatness. So 1952 Kubala PSA 6. I feel like we saw this run recently in a PSA 6, but I don't think it was recent enough to where I think it's a relisting. I think someone just sold it, but I always love the look of this Kubala as well. The floating head is a bit ominous, but I do like the colors though. This is sort of a fun, hobby card that people like from 1971, Montigam Cruyff. As you can see, it goes for nearly $200. If we look at past sales, last one did $252, one before that, $553 for a 4 though, $320 for a PSA 1, so seems like a relatively cheap price. I will say, this PSA 1 looks a bit faded. Everyone has their preferences, but the last PSA 1 looked really good in terms of color. So I think if I was going to go for a PSA 1, I'd pay up the extra $50 and take the good colors, but that's just me. I still think that's a perfectly great card and buy to have, and partially thought about going in on it myself, but I figured, maybe I could look for something a little bit better, not to disparage it. Still, again, would have loved to own it, and still would. So, if you want to send it my way, feel free. But 1960 Panini Calciatore Pele, we see these quite a bit. 2008 Messi, this one goes for $204. The orange and orange Messi, people do like that one as well. Above that, I thought this was a pretty, high price, to say the least. Thiago Silva. You barely see defenders in here, and Thiago Silva isn't a name that, is on everyone's tongue. So $204 for PSA 8. I know it says pop 1 of 1 and then higher. I don't know how true that is, but I know that, if people wanted, that wouldn't be the pop anymore, basically, is what I'd say. Top Scrum 2019 Erling Haaland. When we start talking about this type of stuff, I still think that these types of cards are still so expensive. $210 for that. Also, I don't know how rare the blue prism is for Zidane, but this row right here is just egregious when we just saw this Montigam. Like, that Montigam I feel like is so much better. Even, some of the stuff lower than that, like that Kempes. I'm not even a huge fan of the Bales, but, I sort of understand a Bale-type purchase when people are going after stuff like this for, even higher prices. Personally, not my cup of tea. Obviously, it's someone's, but, it's just something that I feel like this type of stuff isn't unique in the slightest, and $200 can get you, decent stuff in soccer. Moving above it, we have a Mia Hamm auto from the 1994 Upper Deck. pretty notable card for her, and having on-card auto's cool. 2019 Erling Haaland, another one there. We have a 2018 Kylian Mbappe Mojo. To me, I'm like, probably seen as one of the more haters on Prism at this point, but I would rather have this than like this Topps Chrome Erling Haaland. I know that this isn't truly a rookie, but this is a World Cup year. I like the design of Mojo. I mean, at least it has me captivated in some sort of way compared to the Haalands, which don't at all. Keeping it moving, George Best from 1970. We have a Sicker Verlag Gerd Muller PSA 7 along with the PSA 4 of the Bergman. Having them next to each other finally showed me for some reason for the first time that they are the same photo. I'm pretty sure they look exactly the same. I do prefer the picture on the Bergman, but both still rookies. Going over to the 4, typically we look at the 4 and look at the back, and this back actually looks really good. Looking at the front, I guess my only complaint would be I don't know what this is. I don't know if this is a printing error. Someone can let me know. I doubt that that's a ripple down the whole thing, because that wouldn't really make much sense for this to get a 4. I thought the corners were, pretty roughed up, so I sort of understand the 4 almost on the corners alone. If that's just, like a print defect, then I understand. But nonetheless, 4 seemed like a pretty fair grade. $222 for that one. PSA 7 goes for the same price. Keeping it moving, we have a Neymar Red that goes for $228 next to a Garincha PSA 5 from the Aperia Calcio that goes for $264. Pop 1 of 2, none higher, so pretty high grade there. We'll see a Pele from the same set later. We have this Ernest Needham 1902 Clark & Son PSA 2 going for $264. Pop 1 of 1, 2 higher. Thought that, at least this stuck out to me as relatively low. I know there were some names last week from the same set that I had no clue who they were. Now keep in mind, that might mean they're in less sets, so the cards are more desirable. I'm at a loss when it comes to, early 1900s British stuff, but at least to me that didn't seem all too terrible. Keep in mind, again, I'm a novice, so. Then this row, we have a 1995 David Beckham. We have another PSA 10 Erling Haaland. And then we have this BGS 85 Messi. I did bid on this, and I bid on it because it was going to be an upgrade and, basically up the grade of the card I already own. Probably would have sold the other card on eBay for, buy it now near the same price. But my problem was I own a BGS 8, I believe, and this is an 8.5, so it's nice to get that upgrade, but this doesn't have subs, and when I looked at the back, these corners are pretty eaten up, I felt like, for an 8, and the edges too. I just feel like this is the type of card where if I sent it to PSA, I genuinely think I probably would have gotten probably a 7, maybe an 8 at best, but could have been like a 6. I don't know. It's sort of a toss-up. I think 8 was your cap, and if you hit a PSA 8, those go for like 450 to 500. So I don't think that's necessarily a worthwhile risk. Moving above that, we have a Robin PSA 10 that goes for, what is that, 312 in a PSA 10. Pop 1 of 11. These always seem to do a decent price, which sort of surprised me, but at the same time, I know they're great players, so I can appreciate it at the same time, and I'm fully about it. We then have a Fatty Folk from the same set as the Needham that goes for 312, so relatively comparable there. We then have a Romario PSA 7 that goes for 324, relatively low compared to the past highs, but it seems reasonable. I do think that when you consider Pop 1 of 4, 9 higher for Romario, relatively unloved. We'll see Roberto Carlos later that goes for much higher. Rivaldo also does relatively the same in high grade. It'll go for a decent premium. You would think Romario as an attacker and, as good as he was, would sort of get more praise, but, it definitely comes back to nostalgia and what people truly have fondness for collecting as well, and it doesn't seem that, at least for now, Romario's in that group. Above that, we have a 1941 Telmo Zarra. We did see the singular one of this go, I think it was last week, for, I think it was 150, somewhere around there. With the panel itself, it goes for 324, Pop 1 of 1, none higher, so really, really cool. I thought that was, relatively in good condition as well, and fun to see what the premium was for, a copy with the other side of the panel, rather than one where it's just him. We have a Robin Van Persie as well, just a little bit higher than the Robin that we saw earlier. Then we have the 2019 Topps Chrome Purple out of 25 Messi. This is a yellow kit, and it sort of goes back to my 2017 Chrome theory. A 2017 Chrome Orange Messi would go for, in a 9 grade, I would think, 1,500, 2,500, maybe more, but let's just say 2,000, whatever. This is an out of 25, and what should be a superior product to Chrome, which is Sapphire. This is first year Sapphire, so if there was a narrative on that, in theory, you would think that the Sapphire first year could be cooler than the 2017 Chrome first year. Now, maybe that's not the case, who knows, but nonetheless, the orange PSA 9 would probably go for 2K. This goes for 330. And in my mind, they're relatively similar cards. And I know that there's another card for Messi this year, and there's also Chrome, and so you can go after other things. But that's sort of just the crux of it all, is you can always go after other things. There's always more things in the hobby to find, and same thing goes with even Modern. There's always going to be more and more. Maybe not playing days, but Messi has so many cards that, to think that this goes for 1/7, 1/10, 1/5 of the price of something that's relatively comparable, despite being in a premium product, just feels a little weird to me. Moving on up, we have a PSA 3 Eusebio that goes for $348 with an eye appeal sticker. I did look up the comps on this one. I don't know if I still have them up, to be honest. Yeah, I do. Okay, so this one goes for $348. Last one with a Velito back did $470, and I think the same one in November did $384. Might be the same one, might not. Either way, went for basically the same price in the same grade with the same eye appeal. Next to it, we have a WC Athersmith from the same Clark & Son set that we've been seeing the last couple weeks. This goes for $348 a PSA 2, pop 1 of 1 at none higher. Vinny Jr. and Neymar Jr. here on the National Treasures out of 7 Sapphire there for $384. Keeping it moving, we have a Kylian Mbappe field level from 2017 that goes for $384 and a 10. This Diego Maradona PSA 8 does $400. I was really hoping I could get this. I was also hoping that it'd go for, a little bit of a discount. It did, but, at the same time, when I went back and looked at sales history, in, pre-boom times, this was probably $40, $50 sticker, if you base it off comps and sort of work that out. So it's still up quite a bit, and I was a bit more uncomfortable. There was actually another one that I was sort of eyeing in replace of it, but didn't end up getting that either. It was a bad week. I've been winning a decent amount of stuff lately, and I got the Americana Grinch recently, so I wanted to, just lay back, let things come to me this year. So we sort of took this week off, but keeping it moving, we have a 1977 Zico. We have a 1965 Beckenbauer PSA 6 that goes for $408. We have a 1948 Mazzola in a PSA 5.5, which after doing some, looking through the Discord chat today, there's a vintage Discord chat down below if you want to check it in the description down below. Highly recommend. Great to learn and just, talk to others within the space. I would highly recommend it. Nonetheless, from what I heard, this was the highest grade in the set entirely, and I've seen, a decent amount in the set, so that's pretty impressive. It goes for $420. We have a gold Beam Team Messi going for $444. I mean, we've seen the fall of the Sapphire Edition Early Hollands. I still don't understand why these 2006 UK Tradition Messis go for, $500 in a PSA 10. There's another one above it, does exactly the same. This Bobby Moore also, no clue, absolutely no clue what it's doing. Pop 1 of 3, just 1 higher. I'm guessing this is a major shill job by someone that might look to, unload similar ones. I really have no clue. But if we look back on past sales, I mean, a 9 did 64, a 5 did 18, 28, 62. You get the idea. Basically, they've never sold for anything. I don't understand what's going on here, but I mean, I like it, don't get me wrong, but $500, that's wild. Kylian Mbappe auto above that. I remember back in the day where there were no Mbappe autos. Everyone thought it was crazy to see one, and I mean, it's just hanging out here with the, irredeemable Messi cards. So next to it, we have a Miats and a 6.5 from the 30s going for $588. You see this one quite a bit, and definitely see the picture a lot. This was sort of the one that I was eyeing in replace of the Maradona, and probably should have gotten. Part of me was just a little hesitant because I've seen so many Grinches lately, and I don't know why that is, but I'm guessing because I saw the Grinches. That doesn't mean I'm going to see Pele's, but part of me just hopes, maybe I can get a nice looking 2 at some point for a little bit higher. But this one went really, so that VOV does $588. This is essentially a dual sticker with Pele. It's actually a card, I do believe, but yeah, it's a dual item that has Vava and Pele. Most people are there for Pele, but Vava's a great player too. And if we go back, basically last one sold in December for $810. There was a PSA 1 with good colors, but also a really messed up front that went for $630 last year in February, and then there was one miscut that went for $720. So I mean, relative to all these, sure, the color isn't great on this one. It seems pretty low. The striking comp that I looked at was 2017. This sold in a PSA 1 for $598. So this is actually lower 7 years later than it was in 2017. And this is part of, some of the things that I just warn people about with soccer. Like, sure, soccer's up. This is a pretty rare Pele. Now, sure, it might not be as desirable in the sense that it's a dual item and it's not the Pele, but just because you're a great player and it's a rookie card and everyone knows you and we go through a boom cycle, it might mean that your thing doesn't even go up at all. I mean, it's just sort of how this works, right? And so I think that was a really good buy. Personally, I'd like to get another one in the future, so hopefully more of those come out, but we'll see. Nonetheless, we'll keep it moving. We have a Ronaldo PSA 9 from the 95-96 Super Calcio set. Always loved the look of this one. More of a classic feel, I think, to it. Classic card design. This 1969 Pele Edizione Rele. No real info on this. I mean, you know, just at a novice level, when I look at this and look at this, I feel like this should be, you know, dwarfing this. Maybe I'm wrong. I understand it's a PSA pop 1 of 2, none higher, but you know, I think people, especially lately, have really gone crazy for rarity in whatever way you can find it. And I think true rarity should win the day, but, you know, even in times like this, might not win the day. Now, is this truly rare? I guess in the Pele sphere, no, there's definitely more true rare. But yeah, just something to think about. I'd be interested what your guys' thoughts are on the Pele sale there for $588. Moving on up, we have a sticker Verlag PSA 8 with the eye appeal sticker here, going for $690. This was like a great example, I thought, of where modern soccer is, or where we're at in the modern day of soccer. You have, you know, I don't know what this is for Foden. I want to say like fourth year. Yeah, I think it's fourth year because he's in 2018 Optic, I'm pretty sure. So this is a fourth year Foden. You know, it's gold out of 10, but fourth year Foden, BGS 85 going for $750. First year rarest Ronaldo to find unstuck. Yeah, I guess you got to add that caveat. If you wanted to find him stuck, you could do it relatively easy. Unstuck, though, extremely hard, and this is actually an authentic sticker within this BGS slab, which isn't always a guarantee, so at least with stickers especially. So this one goes for $780. You know, to me, I think that seemed like a pretty good deal. Generally, I take off a, you know, half grade maybe with BGS stickers, maybe a full grade, depending on how you see it. I mean, in some, they might not even be authentic. But yeah, seems like a really good price if you're the buyer. I don't know how that's going to cross. I mean, obviously, it's very OC. It's a 6 on centering, and then it's an 8 on surface. So I feel like if you cross that to PSA, given those grades, they'll probably knock you down 2 or 3 for the centering, and then knock you down 1 or 2 for the surface. So I think ultimately you get to probably a 6 or 7, I think, within that ballpark. And if you did that and it worked out all well, I mean, I would think that would increase the value of that sticker. I just think stickers and BGS slabs are not going to get a premium at all, if ever again. I don't think that's ever going to happen. BGS is just so far behind the 8 ball, and we'll see another Ronaldo sticker here in a bit that, you know, further demonstrates the point. So in this row, I mean, a real fun row. We have a BGS 9 Catalan Messi from 2004. This is the green version, typically, you know, the second favorite of the 3 from the team set. We have an Americana Leonidas from 1949 going for $840 in SGC 1. And then we have a 2015 Xavi patch auto from the flawless set going for $900, pop 1 of 1 and higher. SGC 10, which is pretty notable. I feel like this probably did get a bit of a premium. It also has a really cool patch, so I will throw that in there. But I think between the patch and the SGC 10, that's why this got so high. And, you know, I think that's relatively fair. This BGS 9 Messi goes for $930. This seemed a bit low. I will say both of these seemed a bit low, but we'll see something that kind of counters it here in a second. You know, this for $840, typically closer to $900 or $1,000, but $840 isn't crazy. This one's typically $1,000, maybe a little higher, so $930 isn't that crazy. Again, you're never going to get best dollar, at least, you know, on stuff like this. On the messy cards that people see a lot, you're typically not going to get best dollar for common stuff on PWCC. It's more the things that sort of catch your eye and make people chase, right? So that sort of makes sense. We have a Franco Baresi PSA 9 going for $960. We looked up the comp on that, and yeah, this goes for $960. Last one did $16, $12, so within the range of the last couple, you know, a little bit lower, to be expected, honestly, when you're seeing this many sell. But yeah, in the last year, we've seen it go from 25 to 19 to 22 to 12 to 15 to 9. So below 1,000 now, pop 1 of 5, none higher. So even though we've seen 5 sales in the last year, that's basically all there is. But Baresi really wasn't a player that was getting graded much before the boom, so it sort of makes sense. 1979 Maradona Calciatore. I did look up the graph on this, I do believe. Hopefully we can find it. There we are. Looking over at the Maradona chart here, I would say, you know, while there are peaks at 3,000 and 4,000, for the most part, the highest price it was ever at in a stable sense is probably around 2,500. So, you know, when its low was 200, it's, you know, averaged out peak was 2,500, and now it's at 1,000. It seems relatively fair. I mean, it's about middle of the road compared to where it was and where it has been, right? So I think that makes sense. Also, this is relatively, you know, populous, 67 in PSA 6, and if we look at all the pop for it, you know, you'll see 15 9s, 53, 40, 67, 52. So in total, 372 for a vintage sticker is still quite a bit. At least in soccer and other spaces, you know, that would be seen as very light. Keeping it moving, though, we have a PSA 5 Beckenbauer that goes for 1,000, so a good premium over the 2 we saw earlier for about 200. You know, definitely some good grading premium on that. PSA 10 here, and this is sort of just grading premium galore in this row, I guess. PSA 10 Cristiano Ronaldo. This is one that I sort of just think about, too, like, You know, would I rather have this in a PSA 10 or the sticker and $220 in my pocket? I feel like every day I take the sticker. You know, again, would like to hear what you guys think, but I can see how this is desirable. But, you know, given the trade-off between the two, I feel like I'd take the sticker. And then we have the white Catalan, which goes for $1,020, which is, you know, $100 more than the blue and $200 more than the green, which to me was just really weird. I don't know why that was. Maybe there was, you know, something off with the other cards. Maybe they looked worse than 9s. Not quite sure, but this one goes for the highest out of the 3, which just seems odd. In this row, a couple Maradonas featuring a Roberto Carlos. So the Roberto Carlos goes for $1,020, and that's sort of what I was talking about earlier. You know, Romario, that Romario PSA 7, it was a pop 1 of 4, 9 graded higher, I'm pretty sure, and this is pop 1 of 5, 7 graded higher, so they're very comparable in terms of pop, but, you know, Roberto Carlos goes for almost 5 times the price of the Romario. And again, I sort of understand it in the sense that Roberto Carlos, more recent, very big names, has, you know, some great highlights that people sort of talk about in a special way, and also being on Madrid and just sort of part of the glory days. You know, that's going to do it. I definitely get it, but at least to me, I would much rather, you know, again, take the Romario and 800 compared to the Roberto Carlos. But again, this is an outsider looking in. I don't collect either of the players, at least to a large degree, right? I definitely have some cards of them. I just don't, you know, focus on that all too intensely. Looking through the rest of the row, we have a couple Maradonas here. So this Calciatore BVG 7 goes for $100 more than a PSA 6. To me, that seems, I mean, somewhat fair. I think maybe a little high on the BVG, at least from my perspective and what I've seen. But it is nice to see that, you know, people respect it a fair bit. Next, we have a 1984-85 Panini Football Diego Maradona. This is a pop 1 of 1 none higher that goes for $12.30. This wasn't really one that's been on my radar, but given it's a pop 1 of 1, I think that's partially why it does this price. Looking at past comps, hard to really find anything. Maybe I'm not typing in the right thing. I tried Star, I didn't see anything for that, so I tried Football instead with the PSA slab. Only thing I could really find was this PSA 7 that went for $4.44 in 2022. So, you know, comparatively to that, it seems pretty fair. I think that's a fair, you know, uptick for a PSA 9, but there's also been a pretty decent dip since 2022. So I think that's a pretty decent price there, and you know, fun to see. I'm glad to see some Maradona stuff at least up a little bit in this type of range. That isn't, you know, his rookie stuff, because you see tons of Pele. I mean, basically anything Pele, and you see Messi and you see Ronaldo, but you never really see odd and end Diego Maradona, so that's really cool. And then breaking into the top 6, we have a couple Peles to start us off here. We have a 1967 Vero, and when we look at that, basically there are 2 other sales that I can find. PSA 4 for $2,200 and PSA 5 for $900. You could say that this is a low sale based on the 4 that happened before. You could say it's a high sale based on the 5. I think it makes relative sense. Also, this 5 seems to have sold low because of the extremely poor centering. At first, I didn't even think it had a left border. It has a small left border, but nothing too crazy. Pretty fair price there, it would seem. Pop 1 of 1, none higher, which is interesting. That must mean that the 4 that sold prior either already had the label or got sent to PWCC and got the label. I don't know. And then we have this Imperial Calcio Pele with some gorgeous colors as well from 1963. This one, pretty high sale. In a PSA 5, this sells for $1,650, 4th highest sale ever for this sticker in particular. 2 higher ones in 2022 for PSA 3s. They went for $1,700 and $2,500. So, you know, a bit down from a couple sales in particular, but overall a pretty high sale for that Pele there. Then we have this BGS 9 Ronaldo. So again, you know, basically my easiest test for looking at BGS slabs is if the cert number is 13 million or higher, I am just immediately cautious, would be the way I'd phrase it. And, you know, I'd say to do your own research beyond that. But before 13 million, I think they do generally a good job with authenticating, because there was really no, you know, inauthentic soccer stuff coming in, to be honest. Now, the way it would be sort of, you know, finagled with would be that there is trimming. You can definitely see early Beckett trimming stuff going on, but I think the same's true with PSA. When soccer wasn't as big, people didn't care as much and didn't, you know, really pay all that much attention to if something was trimmed, at least in such a detail. Now, this BGS 9, the question is always, are you going to cross it, right? You do have to worry about BGS stickers being wavy, but at the same time, you might be able to flatten that out and figure it out as well. So, you know, there's a give and a take there. This one generally looks pretty good. I mean, obviously the centering stands out as being off-center, so you're not getting a 10 at PSA with that. I would say your best case is probably an 8. From what I see, anything where it's pretty significantly OC, you're more than likely getting an 8. You might get a 9 if, God's on your side that day. But, yeah, I mean, really hard to find any other flaws in it. I think if that is truly, say, an 8 at PSA, or maybe even if they allow it a 9, I think that that's a really good deal. But of course, you're always going to have to take that risk, and presumably the person buying that knows that. You could easily just keep it in a BGS slab too if you were feeling up to it. But yeah, interesting to see that. Very low price, but BGS stickers are going to do what BGS stickers do. So could be opportunity, could be a thing to be very nervous about if you don't know what to look for. But yeah, I can see why that did that. And then the top 3, we have some Barca legends here. We have Ronaldinho, an out of 10 2019 Panini Chronicles Crown Royale auto, goes for $18.30. I truly do think that this type of stuff will take a beating going forward. I get that it's, 2019, a bit before this type of stuff was commonplace, but we saw the Ronaldo Topps release that's going to be coming out with their, I think it's Topps Dynasty. I don't really, follow baseball or wherever this exists already, but it's essentially the Topps high-end products that are going to be coming out. And you could already see Ronaldo R9, having amazing on-card, game-worn items that are going to be coming out with Real Madrid patches and all this cool stuff. And, when all this types of stuff comes out, and Topps is going to do it, / Fanatics are going to do it because, that seems to be what's in real demand in soccer. I mean, people love it, and so they'll make it. And given that, I do think that especially, I don't know if this is sticker. I think it's sticker. I think this type of stuff just would really get hurt. Hopefully it's match worn or something. To be honest, I'm not too familiar with the Crown Royale. Yeah, so it is a sticker, which is already just kind of and the patch isn't, all that great if we're being honest. And it does say enclosed match worn /used. So, I will give it that. There is a little something there. Ronaldinho's a fun one. But, yeah, that type of stuff just scares me a lot, especially with how Topps is going to come in and, seemingly make a lot of really cool high-end stuff. I think there will be, items out there for people that want it. And finally, the last 2 here are both Messi's. We have a PSA 9 Blue Prism that goes for $25.20. When we look back on past sales, if I can ever manage my way there, we have $2,000 prior on Heritage, which, honestly, I think you can get some good deals at Heritage if you're looking at soccer. I don't think many people do. We have eBay beyond that. And basically, I mean, this has been pretty stable for about the last year, maybe 2 years. Yeah, if we go all the way back, you can't see at the bottom, but yeah, there's a 4,000 sale, and right before that, there's a 4,500 in early 2022. So it is down from, early 22 and definitely 2021 and, all that jazz. But it seems relatively stable, which is good. I also think that this is, quite a noticeable card from the 2014 Prism set. I think that this would be one of the, first ones anyone would recognize or say comes to mind because, you have the jersey match, blue on blue. It's pretty high number, so enough people see it. To me, at least aesthetically, it's basically the gold power, the 1 of 1, obviously, and then you have the Pulsar and the blue Prism. So I think that this is probably, up there in terms of what 2014 Prism cards you can get, and the price says just that as well. At $2,500, it is, not cheap. And then finally, we have a PSA 7 Lionel Messi Mega Cracks 71 bis. Seen as many and myself is sort of a staple of the soccer card landscape. Always really striking in terms of the aesthetics. Looking back on the price and how that sort of moved, we can see basically, I think that this is the last year chart. Yeah, this is the last 2 years. All right, so big drop off from the highs. Yeah, we all know. Okay, that happened. There's also a big boom. So back there was probably low and then went high. That's how it goes. And now we're back down sort of in the middle, right? And in 2022, September, we hit a price of $3,800. We obviously then had the Messi World Cup win where things went a little haywire, and this was sort of seen as the card, which I think is fair, and people were excited. And then there was sort of the post-World Cup lull, and then there was the Messi to Inter Miami sort of roar, and now there's sort of a lull, and you can just, it's basically playing out the way you'd expect it to play out given what we've seen. The highs and lows, they all tend to make sense, and ultimately, last year and a half, we're basically smack dab even. So, nothing too crazy going on there, and overall, a pretty good week. Not too crazy on the high end, I will say, but there was enough, definitely, middle of the pack stuff that I enjoyed looking at, as is practically every week with soccer. We'll go and look at the next weekly and give a short peek. I haven't even, looked at any of this stuff, so we'll see. Oh my lord. So we have a Messi 1-of-1 that's already at 7K. Messi 1-of-1s obviously have their own unique collector base in of themselves, but that is crazy to see already at 7K. We have a Holland Gold out of 50 going next week. We have a PSA 8 Ronaldo Mega Cracks going next week. That's already at almost, over 3,000 once you include BP. I guess if I wanted to go put that in now, that's 3,500. This PSA 4.5 Maradona going for a good price. We have a BGS 8 Messi as well. A PSA 6 Ronaldo. So a lot of good rookie stuff, generally speaking. Fun Jose Innocente Garincha there. We also have some more Erling Haaland, Lionel Messi base. Ton of fun stuff, but, once you get beyond that, it's a lot more for the individual collector, for everyone to be picky in their own way. So, yeah, that's going to be it for me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Of course, if you did, again, make sure to leave a like. I'd appreciate it greatly. If you want some more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. And with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.